bring ourselves back to the room. And I want to say again how grateful we are to have all of you with us today. Um, I'm Linda Chamberlain. I'm one of the co-moderators, along with Xander Keeg and Paul Norris. So I'm going to introduce our speaker. We have our presenter today is Katy Byrne. And Katy Byrne is a licensed psychotherapist with 50 years uh, of experience in the field. It's really nice to have a contemporary. That's exactly my length of time in the field as well. So it's nice to have a contemporary for me. I don't get very many of them anymore. So she's been a licensed psychotherapist for 50 years in California. She's written several books. Her latest is From Conflict to Communication, Lessons from Life, and My Therapy Office. She's been a columnist for the Sonoma Sun newspaper and Women's Voice for over 25 years. Katy has hosted radio shows in Sonoma and Napa, California for 15 years. So, Katy, I'm going to turn it over to you and Paige to get us started. Go ahead, Katy.
Thank you, Linda, and thank you all for being here. I'm so honored to be a part of this today. Uh, so I think the first thing I want to say is that, this work that we do here in the world, whether it's personally with our families, our communities, or whether it's with your group or your work, we are doing such imperative work right now, trying to help the planet be less divided and less polarized. And, I believe it's a primary way to change the world, personally and politically. I'm very moved by being here. So I feel like if I can help you today, I'm going to give you a few simple tools that are easy to remember when you're under stress, when you're in the middle of a conflict of any kind. And they may be things you know already, or reminders, or new things, but they're simple to remember and use when you're in a divided, tense kind of situation. I believe here, those of us who want to learn this can change the world. That's what I believe. And this being here today for me is a legacy. It's kind of my last hurrah, one of them at my age. I want to make sure I say what I see in my work really changes people and moves them from rupture and fractured, entrenched conflict to resolution and repair. And it's very moving to watch. So I think that the laws and policies and all the things that we all see happening around us and in the government and in our neighborhoods, they're all important. But we see history repeating itself all the time, don't we? We still see fighting and terrible anguish and suffering because of it going on around the world. And I believe that the reason that is because we haven't gotten yet to the root of the problem. And I believe that the problem is rage. The real root of our discord in general is fear or anger, the fight or flight impulse in us. And so we know, all of us, I'm sure, in this endeavor we're in, that it's important to be able to work with those two parts of ourselves too. So the question is first, just for all of us to ponder as we get going, how are we going to handle like the holidays, the next coming groups and meetings that we go to at work, the next neighborhood screeching of tires, the next, different political events perhaps in which we're going to see conflict more often or have it happen to us. What are we going to do that can help? And they have a saying that if you want to see how mature you are or how enlightened, spend a week with your family. So I would challenge you all to try that. Um, so there's a quote I want to start out with that I just love. It's from a book by Terry Patton, Patten. That's P with a like peanut. Terry Patton. It's a book called, maybe you've read it. It's called where did I put the title? It's anyway, oh, here it is. It's a book called A New Republic of Heart. And the line goes, we are in a race between consciousness and catastrophe. So I think that that's a place to start. That's where we're at, and we are, I believe, we here are the heroes. We are it. Nobody's out there going to come save us. We have to help heal the divides. So right now the fabric is broken, and I think we all know that. There's a lot of torn apart relationships and communities, and of course countries and states and political groups. So I believe one of the things we have to start doing is changing the narrative from fight or flight into valuing dialogue, which is why we're all here, I'm sure, and why we do the work we do. It's easier said than done. The problem at the bottom of why we don't value dialogue is that we have a belief system right now, I think, that's collective, which is pick your battles. Why bother? The person's not going to change anyway, right? Why bother? Why? So the one of the big things I want to project here is having difficult dialogue is an act of courage. That's why I keep saying we are the heroes. It's scary, and that's why people have all these reasons not to do it. And I call it the ostrich thing, how the ostrich buries its head, and but you still, it's like in the family system where the ostrich buries his head, but you still see the feathers, and he's there. I mean, you're at a family gathering and two people in the group haven't talked to each other for 3 years and they're not getting along, but it's still it's a way of trying to hide because it's scary to be in conflict. So the other thing I have to say to people is I'm not a big believer in boundaries. I know we use that term a lot in our work. What I suggest is using the word needs instead, because my idea is that boundaries are a substitute for soul. And what I mean by that is when you set a boundary with somebody and you decide, I'm not going to call my nephew because he's pain in the you know what, and I don't want to deal with him. Um, it's it's kind of breaking the link, like how we're all a unified field. We're like a spider's web. And if you take one little thread and you pull on it out of that web, it kind of breaks the picture. It breaks the beautiful, fine building of this beautiful web. And if you just let one relationship fall apart because you tell yourself the story in your head is it's too much work, then you're putting up another wall and you're breaking the circulation of the earth. I mean, we need to keep circulating. We need to keep talking to each other. So I say boundaries are a substitute for soul. Soul. And what I mean by soul is different. Soul is when I come to you and say, can we talk this out? Can we see if we can air this and get clear with each other? Can we be friends again? Or can we at least understand why we broke off our connection? That is different than fleeing, leaving, or fighting. So I say boundaries are useful when there's harm to self or others, of course. And Linda asked me to be controversial here, so I thought I'd let you know a little bit about some of these ideas. I think we're already got enough. We've got plenty of boundaries. We've got walls, we've got armored trucks, we've got masked people, we've got, uh, you know, shields and all kinds of armor. And we've got big, tall buildings being built with fences, that you can't even get through. So we've got plenty of boundaries. What we don't have is difficult dialogue and gutsy conversations. So there's a quote. I'm going to give you another one. It's from one of my favorite books. It's called Silencing the Self. That's the title, is Silencing the Self. And the book is by Dana, Dana Jack. Her last name is like the name Jack, a man's name, Jack. And here's the line. When dialogue dies, as it can, failure, with either person's failure to speak, to hear, or to acknowledge the other, then part of the self also dies. Then part of the self also dies. So, what happens when we don't try to work through difficulties and make our fabric woven again and unified? If we don't work through our divides, then we have a death, kind of a deadened, it's kind of like you've been in social occasions where it just kind of feels dead because nobody's dealing with anything. There's a deadness, and it happens on the planet, and it's happening on the earth. So this is work. This work we're doing is huge to talk to each other. So if I'm going to give you 2 points here, I don't have enough time, but I have to watch the time, but so I want to make sure you get a full 45 minutes at the end of this. I want to hear from you. I'm not interested in being another top-down authority figure. I'm interested in a horizontal power. That's where we each talk to each other. And so I want to get this part of the thing, the context set here for you, though. So if you forget everything else from my presentation today, here's a couple of two simple things. The first thing is, it's in the face. I always say the first one is intention. And I don't need the drawing yet, Paige. I don't, I'll just give this first little part. So if you forget everything else from today, the first thing is remember I. The intention you set before you have a conversation is profoundly important. Intention soothes the energy, it calms it. So it's like when you come to a conflict, you're all over the place. Everybody's tense. There's 5 things in your mind. You've got a story in your head. Everybody's ready to, their teeth are clenched and they're mad and they're like ready to fight. So you want to set a tone by saying what's your intention? Ask them, and if they say we want to get along again, we want to enjoy being together, we want less less tension in the home. We want to feel good coming to work every day. We really want, so you set an intention, you bring that up every single session. And if you forget everything else, do that every time. It soothes people because it's like when you don't have a map and you're going around and around looking for someplace. I mean, no, we all have MapQuest now, but it's still wrong sometimes. So you still go round and around looking for a place. But if you know where you're going, it's half the battle. We want to get along again. Okay, that's so you can repeat that intention many times. The other thing that you can remember in a conflict that is, if you forget everything else, is to slow it down. Because otherwise, what you have is a cat fight. You can bring up a cartoon here if you feel like it. But anyway, I've got some cartoons of cats. Um, so you get the cat fight instead, which is like, you know, um, you see it all the time. It's the debate style. It's the court of law. You said you'd be here at 4:20, but you weren't here. You're never here on time. Yes, I was. I looked at my clock. I was here at 4 o'clock. No, it was 4:15. You're always late. And they start jumping on each other. What you can do is slow it down, and I'll show you more how to do that later. But generally, the rage that's there the anger, and you can see these cats. It's a cat fight, and it's a normal instinct. Our backs go up and we start defending. What you want instead is to be listening to each other. People long to be heard. They want, at the bottom of rage is longing, longing to be seen, to be heard, to feel safe, to belong, to be respected. We want to be heard. So next, I'm going to show you my simple scaffolding. Now, this is real simple because when we're in a conflict or you're helping people that are in conflict or having fighting or ready to break up and they come to you and they're like, here's the drawing. Thanks, Paige. They're gritting their teeth. One example, they may come to you with three kids and one on the way. They haven't gotten along for 5 years, 10 years. Some couples come to me after 20 years, some groups, some families. So what you have first is this, it's in your face to save face. Now, the reason I made this drawing, kind of simple. I don't know. I guess this is the dog. I have a dog or a cat usually because families have those. And this also is good for kids because they can relate to the cartoons. So with a conflict, if you forget everything else, remember it's in your face to save face. The first I is for intention. What's my intention? We've already talked about that, but you want to say what your intention is. I want to clear the air. I want to feel better at home. I want to come to work and enjoy myself. I want to have a good gathering for my birthday and I want us all to feel less uptight. Whatever your intention is, the other thing about intention is intention is something you can do. You can say before you have a difficult dialogue or a crucial conversation, you can say, is this a good time? So you set up a time for that conversation. People sometimes need to be ready. The third thing about intention that's profound is intention is a huge thing. It sounds like, oh, well, we all know that. Intention can, in and of itself, shift a conflict. Think about the power of this. When a kid can lift a truck with intention, you've heard these stories. A 14-year-old lifted a truck off of his father's body. A truck had run over his father, was on top of him, and this 14-year-old lifted the truck, and they were able to get his dad out from under that. That was intention. So that's why I keep saying it over and over, and you can repeat it. So the second thing is it's in your face, it's two eyes. And when you're looking at a person and you're in a conflict, you see their face. The second I is always I statements, I feel. And you may know this already in your work, but it's terribly important. I feel, and it's usually I'm afraid or I'm hurt. And you want to really encourage I statements because as soon as you hear you, if I say to you right now, you all, how do you all feel? Why are you acting that way? Why is the background behind you yellow? Why is it blue? Why is it gray? Any kind of you statement immediately, just the word you will put you off. So you want to stay with I and encourage your clients and people in your groups to say I. Now, I feel hurt or afraid are the key words here because the anger comes in a minute where you have anger. But I feel afraid. You'll find your clients don't want to say, I find my clients don't want to say I'm afraid. It's kind of taboo in our culture to be afraid. It's embarrassing usually. So they'll say, I don't feel afraid. And I'll say, I might gently say, maybe a little worried. And then sometimes if they're really not comfortable being vulnerable, they'll say, well, maybe concerned. But it's okay. However close you can get to feeling the feelings. It's very, very important. I'll explain that in a minute. But where the anger comes in is in the mouth. So the mouth, you got the two eyes and the mouth. The mouth is for making wishes. Anger is really unmet needs, right? So anger is really rooted in unmet needs. So you can get angry from saying your wishes from the mouth. So I say to people, wishes come like when you blow candles off a birthday cake. I wish for, so you can use your anger to direct it like, I really wish we could have a gathering here at my birthday for once where we'd all play a game, do a puzzle, maybe talk to each other about how we're really doing, or maybe dance and play some music. I wish that we could work through this conflict and hear each other. That's where anger comes out. I wish we had sex more than once every 5 years. You'll hear this with couples. That's kind of a negative wish, but it still comes out as a wish instead of as a blame. So that's the face scaffolding. The ears, of course, are for listening. It seems simple. We all want to listen, but you have to slow the dialogue down in order for them to actually hear each other, of course. And that slowing down is done by through reflective listening. So helping them say to each other, what I hear you saying is, did I get that right? I'm sure you all know about reflective listening, and I can talk more about it, but the gist is what slows down the fighting is reflective listening and listening well. Um, there's a quote, see if I can find it because I just love it. David Brooks, the journalist for New York Times, he says, when another person is talking, you want to be listening so actively that you're practically burning calories. So that's I think a great description of how well you have to be listening. The other thing about asking questions, try to stay away from asking them as a client or as a therapist or as a counselor or a coach. Try to stay away from questions and try to encourage them to stay away from questions until they go deeper and get more trust built. Because questions can be experienced as interrogation. Why do you think you're late every time? Why do you think you always want to boss us around in the kitchen? Why do you think you are always late? It just puts people on edge again. And it can be brought in a softer tone after they go deeper, after this part gets established. So this is the scaffolding. It's in your face to save face. The wishes are very profound. People are never asked, what do you wish for? I mean, they're always dealing with the problem. So that's the scaffolding. And the court of law is what we have right now. You did, no, they didn't. You were supposed to arrive at 4. I mean, court of law is always see on TV. Um, so how do you heal a cut? You air it. Sometimes I use that image with clients um, who they'll say to me, do we have to go over and over and over this? We've been talking about it for 10 years. Now we're in therapy, blah, blah, blah. We don't, we're spending money we don't want to, et cetera. And, it's wearing. They come to therapy like threadbare, like tires that have gone round and round and round, the same argument, and they're tired. And so I'll sometimes use images like, how do you heal a cut? You air it. And then maybe it becomes a scar. Then you have to talk about it again. But you don't talk about it with so much vengeance. You're getting a little more rapport built. You're getting a little more trust built. You feel safer. These are safe conversations because you're being curious instead of debating. You start becoming organically curious as you hear people talk about their feelings. Uh, so your job, our job, Braver Angels, any group that is trying to bring together more unity and less divides has the job of creating safety. We are the scaffolding. So we're holding the hope here for the positive. We're helping repeat the intention. We're helping slow down the dialogue by encouraging them to really hear each other and repeat back. What I heard you say is, I heard you saying that you get bored at the holidays because you don't feel anybody really is very interested in what you have to say. Did I get that right? So when you repeat back what you're hearing, it sounds robot-like at first, but, and they don't, most of my clients don't like it at first. But what they find, especially if they lean in with feeling, and sometimes I ask them to physically lean in and listen. When you listen, don't do report talk. Like what I hear you saying is you left at 4:15 and you meant to meet me at 4 o'clock. You have them do it with some amount of emotion if they can have. Grab the feeling of what your person said. I feel like maybe you're saying you feel you get rushed and you're worried about being on time and you're busy. Did I get that right? So uh there's more I can say, but I'll let that go for time. I want to hear from all of you. Maybe now it would be a good time to show the film. I've got a little film of how I work with clients, and it shows kind of basically some of what I've talked about here, and then it'll be about only 12 minutes long or so. So thanks, Paige, for doing that.
I see a very high success rate working with couples and in relationships and families with conflict by first helping them understand themselves and each other more deeply.
Hi, I'm Katy Byrne, and the reason I'm doing this today is that I've been a therapist for 40 years. I've been working with couples and I've witnessed tremendous struggle and pain, and I really wanted to show you all how you can work with each other at home as a partnership, whether you're married, whether you're with your sibling, whether you're with your boss, with a friendship, any kind of a stuck relationship with conflict. I want to demonstrate how I help you work through it and how you can do it on your own. About 73% of third marriages end in divorce. There's a lot of conflict in the world, countries, between communities, between races, between groups of people, and even in our neighborhoods. So we really all need to learn how to talk to each other. Thank you. So thank you both for being here today. And I know from your phone call that you've been together a few years and you're feeling stuck right now. So Emily, would you mind starting and just telling me a little bit about where you feel the gridlock is, where you feel unhappy?
Yeah. I mean, we've only been married for about 2 months, and I just feel like ever since we got married, it doesn't, like, I feel kind of neglected. Like now, oh, I'm the wife. I don't need to put any more effort into my relationship with this person anymore.
And you've been together a few years.
Yeah.
Okay. Is there more you want to say about that? What's it like for you, feeling like you're not feeling close?
I mean, so for example, a couple weeks ago, we don't get to see a whole lot of each other because our work schedules kind of conflict. And we were both gonna have a night off together and, you know, like make dinner and have like a romantic time together. And I was on my way home from work and I texted him, haven't heard from him all day, and I was wondering what I should pick up for us to make for dinner. And he was out with a friend. He had gone to get a drink, did not know if he was going to be home for dinner, didn't tell me, like was just already out. And that just made me feel like, did you forget about me? Did you, what happened? You know?
So Damien, you want to say your view of this?
Yeah, well, I mean, as I told you and we talked about, I was with my friend Mike, who I don't get to see very often. He was in town, and uh, I just, I kind of, like, I get that I messed up. But, I mean, it just feels like I don't understand why it's such a big deal. It's, I mean, we can have another dinner, at some point. I don't get, like I said, Mike was in town, and I mean,
Okay, but here I am, all excited that we have plans together. I didn't make any other plans to hang out with a friend. Now I'm just alone for the night. Like, I just, like, how do you not consider my feelings in that situation?
I
Okay,
don't know.
let me see if I can help you out here. So let's slow this down, because slowing down the communication will be key to you learning how to talk to each other when you feel this kind of big wall. And so let me work with you for a minute, Emily. And Damien, would you just try to listen? And the listening is very powerful so that she feels heard. So Emily, can you just tell me a little bit more and tell Damien what it feels like when you go through these feelings and maybe he's not texting you or returning your calls, or he's out with the guys without telling you? Tell me what that feels like.
It just makes me feel stupid. Like, I've been looking forward to this. Was planning it all in my head. We were gonna have this lovely night, candles, dinner. It was, I had my hopes up, I guess, and it's like you ghosted me. Like, I'm your wife and you ghosted me.
Okay, so stay with me for a minute. What's the feeling that makes you feel like crying?
It just makes me feel like, just makes me feel really worthless.
So stay with me a minute. Just don't interrupt. Let's just work with listening for a minute. What does it remind you of, Emily?
I mean, honestly, it reminds me of trying to date when you're like a teenager or in college when it's just I was just always getting played. And I don't feel like I'm getting played by my husband.
So just stay with me one more minute on this. What else does this bring up for you in your past?
I mean, honestly, that I was never, sorry, this is a lot, but like I was never like the pretty girl or the, one getting all the attention from boys. And it just brings me back to feeling invaluable, because when you're growing up as a girl, you find, you think that your value is in how attractive you are to boys. And yeah, it just brings me back to those feelings of feeling worthless and not accepted, and makes me feel like I'm like you're doing me a favor for being with me.
Thank you so much for that. So Damien, would you just hang with me for a minute? Can you tell Emily what you just heard her say? It doesn't have to be perfect, just the gist, the kind of the feeling part of what you heard.
Well, I heard that she feels like I don't find her attractive, which just seems crazy to me. Like I mean, of course I do. I don't know. She feels like I'm playing her, which also I
Or
don't.
just stay with what just reflect back, thank you though. Just reflect back what you heard her saying.
Um, that she feels worthless. Growing up, she wasn't valued as much. And I guess it's bringing up those kinds of feelings.
Okay. So now would you ask Emily if you missed anything, or was there more that she needed to say to you about that?
Did I miss anything more?
No, I mean,
Does that feel like enough for now?
Okay.
So now what I just did with you is what I want you to do more of at home. Can you see how when you don't interrupt each other, when there's not an argument, but you're hearing each other deeply, you get a little bit more to the root of what's going on, of what really is happening and how you're affecting each other. So Damien, can you now say how you feel in this marriage? What feelings do you get stuck around?
I just feel, I feel like I just felt it right there, sort of. Like, I feel like I did what you were telling me to do, was like reflecting it back. I was doing it wrong somehow. And I guess I feel like I'm doing things wrong a lot. And I feel confused, like, that I can see that it was a big deal, what happened. But it's just confusing for me still, like how that could just produce that much of a reaction. Like me, I mean, no, you said you were looking forward.
Okay, just hang with me. So I want you to work with me a little bit, one more minute on this. So tell me, and tell Emily, what does this remind you of, this feeling that you're having, like you're always somehow doing something wrong? What does it remind you of in your past?
I mean, I don't know if this relates, but I mean, I was always, the youngest in my family, and I was always doing everything wrong. I mean, like, at school too, I just would get stuff wrong, and I wasn't smart, I didn't do well, and I don't know, I guess I come to assume or expect that that's what's going to happen, and I feel like she wants me to be this perfect person, and I'm not. I don't know, I kind of want to be like, I'm sorry, I don't know if I tricked you somehow and you didn't realize that you were marrying someone who was just
imperfect.
Yeah.
Okay, stick with me another minute on this. So how do you respond to her when you feel this way, when you're feeling blamed, or you're feeling like you aren't perfect and you're not doing things the right way? How do you get to?
I guess I feel like I know I'm not going to do it right, so it's better to not just do it at all.
Okay.
I don't know, like with what happened the other night, I knew I was going to be disappointing you and letting you down.
how?
What do you mean?
Just let him, don't interrupt for a minute, because as soon as you start arguing, you'll lose the deeper root of this. So, Damien, you knew you were going to disappoint Emily, so you just decided, screw it, I'm not going to even try.
I guess it was just easier to be with Mike and know that just hang out and not feel like I was,
Okay.
Yeah.
So kind of just go do your thing, and there was nothing you felt you could do to make it better.
I guess.
Kind of rebellion?
Maybe?
A little bit?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't want to put words in your mouth. Emily, can you just reflect back the gist of what you heard Damien saying, kind of just the feeling part of it that you can sense?
Like, you're afraid that you're gonna do something wrong, so you do something wrong. like, like you could have.
No, wait. No, okay. So let me work with you a minute. So stay with what you heard him saying, what you heard from your gut, the feeling part that he was talking about.
Like feeling inadequate, you mean?
Okay. Yeah.
I mean, yeah, I hear that. I can relate to that. I don't know what I've done to make you feel that way.
Just reflect back what you heard him saying, though.
Okay, I heard him say that he feels um, imperfect and like he's going to disappoint me, um, and being afraid of that.
Okay, thank you. So for more information, feel free to contact me at my website, conversationswithkaty.com. And don't forget, in a delicate dialogue, in a difficult conversation, listen well, reflect back what you've heard, and ask for what you need. Deep listening and respectful conversation can change the world.
So, Paige, is it okay if I say my time is pretty much up? I want to hear from everyone, but can I just say one or two things regarding what you just saw, and then I want to open it. Is that good? Uh, okay, can you all hear me? Okay. Just what it, okay, so you can see how I'm interrupting, but I want it not to become the court of law argument. I want it to slow down. And the slowing down is what I call going down the ladder. So I tell clients sometimes because they don't know how to maneuver all these feelings, I should say, can we just go down the ladder one more rung? What are you feeling right now? And they can follow that image. Um, what I also tell them is the work they're doing is work for their kids. Their kids will learn how to do this, and eventually their kids will come up to them and say, Mom, what I hear you saying is that I can't have a Hershey bar for lunch. Is that what I'm hearing? And the kids pick it up. So this is work for the world. It's not just these two or three people. The other thing is, I have clients often, when I ask them, for the last 15-minute years, I've been completely obsessed asking couples and families what worked for them because I don't know what works. They have to tell me, and this research for me is not all my own idea. They have told me over and over and over again when they come in after 5 sessions or 10 or whatever it takes, and they say, we're fine. We're getting along. We had a difficult conversation this morning and we got through it fine. They're just, when they have repair, they say the main thing that worked for them is the reflective listening, that it slows it down so they can't get into the fight. And the last thing is that people after 40 years, I've had many couples recently after 50 years of marriage come in and say we shut down for days. We don't talk for several days at a time when we're having a fight. And when they have a shift happen and they come in and they say it's fine, we're doing fine, we don't need you anymore. Um, then I ask what worked, and they say what worked for us is slowing it down so we actually hear each other. And what that does is it organically brings repair. It organically brings solutions to the table. Anyway, I'll let you all jump in with questions. You can tell me your own experiences. There's no one right way to share here.
So if you'd like to do a hand raise, you've got a raise hand icon down at the bottom there. If you want to raise a hand, if you'd like to share something with Katy, ask questions, the floor is open. Mary Beth, are you going to want to take the questioners then?
Paul, would you go ahead and share your name and what your profession is and where you're located and what you'd like to contribute or ask?
Yeah, so just to break the ice, which I often do, Paul Norris, I'm on LFMT, LMFT, sorry. And I'm also getting old, as maybe is kind of obvious. Um, and I'm in San Francisco. I just wanted to, to salute you, Katy. I mean, you have this beautiful, non-threatening, open presence, which I think, is a huge part of what enables people to be comfortable and open up around you. So, I don't really have a question. I just have a comment, and I just want to salute you for your wonderful work.
Thank you.
Others, what's coming up for you? Sander.
Yeah, Katy, thank you so much, especially for the video demonstrating the work that you're doing. It made me think of emotionally focused therapy for couples. And I'm wondering, is that your training or is this something different from EFT for couples?
No, thanks, Sander. It's not. I'm eclectic, and I've done it 50 years, so I use a bit of a whole lot of people. I made this simple for this purpose today, but it's a combination of Harville Hendricks and John Gottman and Ellen Bader and Terrence Real, though I don't use his confrontation style very much, but it's many, many, many great teachers. Thank you for the question. It does have nuances of many things.
Linda, and remember to share where you're located and what your professional background is, please.
Hi, it's Linda Chamberlain. I'm a psychologist in Florida on the Gulf Coast, not golf course. Sorry, Gulf Coast. So, and I'm wondering, Katy, if you, like I think many of us, have encountered couples where the concern is politics of some sort or social issues. And I'm curious if there are other things that you find you have to bring into the work when that's the case.
Honestly, to be really honest, I stick when it has to do with conflict or discord or a rupture or disagreement, strong disagreement. I stick pretty closely to the scaffolding here. My job, and Paul kind of underlined it, I tell them even in the beginning and during many sessions that my job is to help create safety and safe conversations. And that helps them build trust so they know I am safe. And I don't use anything particularly different, although I do get triggered because I have my own issues. Politics is a very triggering topic, as we all know, and but I completely put myself in a realm of safety and having them listen, and it just completely blows my mind. I mean, my eyes bug right out of my head when I watch them when I do this process. The deepening of the woundedness that we all have, the way we've all learned over many years. Well, my dad taught me that my dad was this way, or my mom believed this way. So the deepening of the story is what heals people. And the other thing I wanted to throw out there is they'll say to me when they find this works at home and at their job and in their neighborhood, how did we not know this in 40 years of marriage? We've been lived with so much tension. And I say, well, how would you have learned it in the movies, on TV, reading a book, a podcast, Hollywood, football game? I mean, we are pioneers here. So, Linda, I'm sure maybe some of you know more about the political fighting than I do. I don't, it kind of seems to melt with this process.
No, I think that's true. That's what I find when
For
I'm working
you?
with people who come in
Yeah,
around, and that's at least a part of what they're bringing in is
yeah,
conflicts or
yeah,
concerns with
yeah,
loved ones, especially
yeah,
family members or partners
yeah,
over politics.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, thank you,
Thank you. I
Katie.
see Alden has his hand up. Alden, are you able to turn on a video?
I am able to, but if I did, I'm afraid I would lose the connection because
Okay,
I'm up in the woods kind of and the internet is pretty bad here. So I'm that's why I'm
I
leaving.
understand. Yeah, that's okay. Well, yeah, introduce yourself. What's your profession, where you're located, and what would you like to say or ask?
I'm in Washington State and mental LMHC, and I have a first of all, nice work, Katie. I have a question about the work insofar as the interaction of um, the clients, each client's interweaving of their expression of their feelings, their thoughts, and their needs. And it seems uh, I would have to watch it again, but I had the sense that um, especially on Damien's part, but maybe both
Yeah,
of the clients, they were sort of devolving into their thoughts when you were asking them for their feelings. And
yeah,
but they were sort of focusing, I think they were staying focused on their needs, but part of the way they were expressing their needs was not only through expressing their feelings, but through their thoughts also. But as soon as the thoughts started coming in, that's when it would start degenerating. So I think if it had been me, might not have, I wouldn't have done it as skillfully as you. I would probably have stopped them sooner and say, wait a second, these are thoughts. We're talking about feelings here. Can you keep going with the feelings? So I just wanted your feedback on that because it's really a hard thing to do with clients to kind of keep them focused without tripping them up or sort of feeling like you're correcting them.
I'm nodding because that is such a fabulous question, which is why I like this part better than anything else. I really am more a believer in conversation. I don't even believe in authority over. I believe in client-centered, horizontal conversation. Uh, you know, the way I would respond to that wonderful question is, um, you're right. I get it totally, and I see it all the time. Um, it's tricky, I think, because if the primary role of the therapist or the counselor in my bias is to create safety, then even there in the clip you saw, I was a little on edge there for a minute. I try to soften my voice. I try to gently put my hand up. I use a lot of different things so that they feel safe. Because to say to them, okay, you're up in your head now, or those are thoughts and not feelings, that could be interpreted as a criticism. And the truth about it is that we all are up in our heads. That's the way we are. I mean, I can't speak for all of you, but I know I am. It's part of the culture. It's part of the way most of the world that I know of anyway, it just works, and that it's what we're taught. To get vulnerable, to go down the ladder and get vulnerable, what I call into me, you see. That's why the I statements help. It forces self-reflection. As long as I'm telling you what you've done, I don't have to look. But as soon as I say, I feel like right now, I feel moved by your question, and I also struggle with what you're talking about. That's more vulnerable. But so to make it a shorter answer, I think when you see that they're up in their head and you want to help them get a little bit more real or authentic, or because that is what makes repair happen, is once they start to connect deeply and they get more vulnerable, then suddenly empathy occurs. The way I do that is to keep keep in mind that my interventions don't really matter. What matters, my intent is that they take away a scaffolding or a few tools that they can use at home the next day if they have a fight. And so I just stay riveted on making sure they hear each other, they reflect what each other's saying, and they don't interrupt. That in and of itself organically over time causes them to go to their feelings. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. I think that it would be, I just wonder if one can dare, if that's the right word, to try to bring them back to their feelings more when they go into their thoughts, because I think so many people uh, don't really, something like, I feel like that person is a jerk. That's not really a feeling, it's a thought. But that's the way we talk. That's the way we use English, or at least most people do. And so if we don't keep, trying to, I don't want to say correct, but maybe direct or redirect clients so
Yeah.
that they understand what the distinction is, because it's not evident from everyday language what the distinction is.
It's really, really very, very tricky, and I hear you. Uh, I think the answer is, and you saw me doing it, I do need to interrupt them very gently, and I'll give it a little bit of, I disclose sometimes for modeling. I say, I totally get where you're at. I do the same thing all the time. I want to say my I statement is, I feel that you're really a you know what. I really have the feeling that you're a pain in the ass. That's not my feeling. That's a criticism. To try to make it simpler for you, um, it's I think I believe you have to build safety first. You can sense when they're ready to hear something more direct. It takes at least 3 to 5 sessions to make it so clear that you're being the trust person, you're the safety person. Once they feel that, you can start. I do sometimes say, this is pretty intellectual. Could we just go down the ladder one more rung and see if you can guess? And you saw us doing a lot of guessing in this. Damien didn't know how he felt, which is kind of what you're talking about. He didn't know what he felt. He was up in his head. That's about 90% of my clients. So what we do is I'll tell them, I'll say, I know how you feel. All we do in therapy is guess. Sometimes I joke, I say, we're a little like Sherlock Holmes here. That's why people come to therapy, is it's the world of the unconscious. I don't know why I eat a bag of potato chips every night right before I go to bed. I'll disclose a little so they don't feel they're being picked on. And I do, by the way, eat a bag of potato chips every night before I go to bed, still to this day, and I really don't want to. But I haven't gotten to the bottom of that yet. So, you know, um, but then later, I do have clients after the rapport is there. I can say, can we go a little bit more to the feelings? And I feel like I know you want more on that question, but I think maybe we should let other people come in and then we'll come circle back around to you if you want, because I think it's a great question.
Yeah, I think what I want to I want to back off here, but what I want to thank you for especially is just it sounds like what you're saying is that in the beginning, at least in the first few sessions, and maybe now and then going onward, that the most important thing is that they're listening to each other and reflecting back what they're hearing as accurately as they can without um, quoting, sort of paraphrase plus, if you will.
Yeah, and you can say when you listen to your partner, try to listen for the feelings and guess at what they are. And gently, what I instead of doing the report, you can say what I hear you saying, and I'll model it for them. I'll say, watch, see how I'm doing it. What I hear you saying is you really feel hurt when Damien doesn't come to your date night. It really makes you feel rejected. So
Yeah.
I'll model it if he can't do it.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Susan, you're up next. Where are you located and what's your background and question or comment?
Hi, I'm in Chicago and really happy to be here with you all at this time in the world. I just want to get back to that question about when you have different politics in the family or in a couple or whatever. And I just got this book right before has anyone know about this book or this woman?
Mhm.
I haven't read it, but I saw that she did a TED Talk, which I haven't seen. And it's a slim book. I
Oh,
was like, okay, maybe I can do this. So I'm not recommending it yet, um, but something happened right before I came here. I was so looking forward to, this whole idea of depolarization, in the
yeah,
world,
yeah,
and taking it down a notch or
yeah.
whatever. And as I left the building of the last meeting I was in, a woman approached me and wanted me to sign a petition, a political petition for an opposing party. This community. She didn't have hardly any names, put it that way, on her on her petition. And since I was coming here and since I've been thinking about this, I asked her about that party and how she was feeling about the party that she's in. Um, and we had this conversation. And she was talking about how no one in her neighborhood believes in that party and how she's lost friendships because of it. And we just started talking about it. And I focused on the things that I agree with her about.
Hmm,
She
that's
used to be in my party and she's changed. And so we talked about what she was dissatisfied with that party, and
yeah.
there are things that I am also dissatisfied with. So I felt that I could join with her about that, and make that connection. And then I just said, I would like to listen to you. I would like to listen to,
Mm,
this evolution for you. Would you be interested in also listening to me? I think, putting myself out there as like you're talking about today, Katie, listening, and she was like, yeah, that would be great. So we're gonna go for coffee. And um, it's this personal connection. I also have people that are not in my party, in my family, very close to me. Um, and friends, and this whole notion of here's a litmus test. You have to belong to the party I belong in. Not only that, but you have to believe in the things that I believe in that are consistent with, and in some of those things, within the party we disagree, but if you
yeah,
don't do those things, that's the litmus test, right?
yes,
And
yeah,
I'm out. And
yeah,
so there's not that dialogue like you're talking about, Katie. And
yeah.
so what I've done also in my personal life, is focusing on where we agree, and focusing on listening and focusing on the relationship
Mhm.
and the personal connection. Because part of the thing that I feel like is going on now is just the decay of personal connections.
Yeah.
And the craving, like you were saying, the longing, Katie, for, the anger is about longing,
Yeah.
all this longing that we all have for the world not to look like it's looking right now.
Yeah.
And, as a therapist, like I'm a LCSW, like you guys, I feel like we need to be the leaders or part of the leadership in building, like you were saying, Katie, the scaffolding, right? So that we're not inflicting so much harm on each other, and finding ways to, so I was reading Monica Guzman,
Yeah.
the book, I Never Thought of It That Way.
Yeah. Yeah.
And one of the concepts in there that I really liked was, that's not unique to that book, I don't think, but she was saying, talking about building bridges and saying it's not about crossing the bridge, right?
Yeah.
It's about staying on the bridge, staying in dialogue, staying in relationship, staying
That's
in
yeah.
connection. And as a person in the world, in the community, and for couples and clients that are struggling, and families that are struggling with this, and all the people that are dreading Thanksgiving and Christmas and, everything else, not to mention the world.
Yeah.
So that's all I got.
Susan, that was really brilliant. I want to thank you. Thank you so much, everybody, too. And wonderfully articulated. The thoughts that pop up for me briefly are, you know, the bridge, these images are wonderful because that's right. The bridge is where we all have to be. And one of the images I use, I tell clients when they say, why do we have to keep going over this? I say, well, when you get rid of the weeds every spring, it doesn't matter how many you chop or weed whack or you use weed killer. It doesn't matter. They come back next spring somehow, right? That's the same thing with our wounds. They're very deep. So you kind of reframe so that they know that it's okay to keep having the same conversations. These things take forever. But to also your point, a wonderful example of how you've come up with a way of making an intention. When you come up against what I heard you saying, Susan, tell me if I got it right. When you come up against a difference, and I tell people, sometimes I laugh, I say, oh, well, yes, of course, the reason for all conflict is differences. We're all different. All of us are different. I wear purple, you wear pink, I eat oranges, you eat apples. That's the reason for all conflict. But of course, politics is a tough one right now. So a wonderful idea that you have, you make an intention, whether you do it outwardly or inwardly, about, you want to hear where they're at. I think I heard you saying, Susan, you want to bridge, you want to hear each other. You wonder if that's something you two can really do. That must be like making people feel like they're in a candy shop. I mean, nobody ever wants to hear each other's differences in this culture. I think that's wonderful. The other thing I was going to mention when you were talking is the word decay is absolutely unfortunately, a very true word for where we're at, I think, in the world now. And the craving, the longing, yeah, that's all a part of where we all are at. And you're right, you are it. We are each it. We are the heroes. We have to bring this everywhere we go because I believe we are going to be the ripple. We're going to ripple down. And there are people, doing this work beyond even just Braver Angels, other groups too. And one of them is Peter Coleman, his book, A Way Out. And thanks for your book, Susan. I'll look that one up. Maybe somebody can put it in the chat at the end. But A Way Out by Peter Coleman, they have at least 500 groups working politically and in corporations and groups everywhere, all over the world. Even Biden, when he was president, called Peter and said, "Can you come to the government and help us talk to each other?" And Peter just said, "We've got so many groups now, just get involved with what we're doing. Just call any of our groups that." So the personal is political. Absolutely. Susan, did I get you right or did I miss anything?
Yeah.
Okay. And another good question, if we had the time, is there more about that? That will help people go deeper also. Yeah.
Thank you. I'd like to go to Kathleen next. And Kathleen, introduce yourself. Where are you from and what's your background and question or comment?
Hi, my name is Kathleen, and I live in Parry Sound, which is in Ontario, Canada. And I'm just in the practicum portion of my master's program for counseling psychotherapy or psychology. And, Katy, your encouragement for the couple and your active engagement to slow them down really matched quite nicely the opening of Linda saying, let's just sit for a minute because I always rush to these things and click on. So I really appreciated that. Um, Sometimes when you were talking to the couple, they really, and you've already said this, struggle with the emotions. Like we've already said, they often say a thought versus an emotion. And my inclination is always to start throwing out emotions to see what sticks. But do you ever just offer them a list to sort of prime the pump or suggest, are you mad, sad, glad, or afraid, or give them the standard? So that's one question. And then the other thing with Susan, in terms of the ability to have her mind open to say, hey, you're a stranger. We clearly have probably some commonalities, but willing to engage. I find it interesting that I'm willing to do that with people I don't know. I'm totally open to that. But people I know, I'm like, it's like I feel like I'm gonna lose. I don't know, just with friends, because I've been shunned and shamed a couple of times and unfriended and shunned to the periphery a few times. So I'm like, so I don't know. And it's such an awful thing because your friendship sort of evaporates anyway, because there's no authenticity
Yeah.
left in it anyway. So it's sort of one of those things that back to your courage kind of concept, really. Anyway, those are my thoughts.
Wow. This is so great because I feel so deeply about what you're saying, Kathleen. First, the list thing, I have had clients asked, and I'm open to everybody else's ideas, but I I tend to not give lists because I stay so riveted on the process, and my belief is that they're here to be empowered to become more self-reliant, or not, that's not the right word, to become more, um, to have their guesses about things be validated rather than going elsewhere to another authority for a list of something. Uh, my belief is if we keep guessing at what we feel and what we think, um, we are smarter and more wise than we believe we are. The tendency for a therapist to give answers or advice, I think, is problematic because some of that can be our ego or our helpfulness. But what's the ultimate goal in our work? I believe it's for them to trust their own insights and guesses. Um, I did have one client bring a list, and it did help her to pick a few words from there. They can get them on the web so fast now, but I really feel like kids grow up not being heard, so they don't know what they feel. And in a good, healthy upbringing, the parent might say, how do you feel? Or what would you like for lunch? So they learn to guess. And so that's one thought. The other is I just love your idea about your disclosure. It's very scary to talk to people that are close to us and talk about those little ruptures or those big feelings. those withholds, those like I've been wondering, are you mad at, do you feel like I talk too much when we get together? Or I'm wondering why you don't call more often. We haven't gotten together as frequently. There's 1,000 questions we all have in our relationships. It's terrifying to bring things up. Um, I do think you're right. You said it already. I believe it's an act of courage and it's a new value system. Nobody's used to it. So I do feel like it's my responsibility if I bring something up to a person that is close to me. I try, if I can have my, as we call it these days, agency, if I can give myself a minute to think out loud, I do try really hard. There's a little thing I was taught, first truth first. I won't go in with the whole hairball, the whole emotional hairball. I'll go in with the first thing, like, I just wonder sometimes if, would you feel okay if we could talk about something that I wonder about over, I just, and you start to introduce the topic and see how they respond. Do they go, oh no, I never talked to, I mean, I have two people in my life right now. They say, no, I don't talk to friends about issues between us. I just don't do it. We get together, we have drinks, we have fun, and I don't process. I don't talk about difficult things. But I find most of the time if I nudge a little bit and uh, just dip your toe in and see where they're at and then pay attention. If they seem just to recoil, trust your intuition. Um, but it is ultimately, I think it's an act of courage and much more to say on that topic. I do also want to underline this is all about fear, fight or flight, anger and fear. And so we have to work with ours too. I don't know if that answers enough for you, Kathleen.
Wonderful, thank you. And it does resonate the idea of letting the client do the work. Like that's the point of going inside and finding their own answers. So, and like you said, as they practice it, and you keep sort of revolving around the same ideas, they eventually get further along about their emotions. So, thank you. Wonderful presentation.
Well, and none of it's always that, you can whittle it around with your needs, but these are my general rules that I use for myself, and then I don't always use them.
Of course.
Thank you. We have a couple more questions here. Paul, how about back to you?
Yeah, thanks for letting me double dip. I have, I think, a little bit of an unusual perspective. I started working in mental health in the late 60s, and then I took this little 40-year break and went back in 2010 to get my master's. And I'm still understanding this more deeply now, but I think I've seen a profound culture change. And the culture change that I see embodied in you seems to me very much like what I saw. Well, I saw like some really great stuff in the late 60s, and I saw some really horrible stuff.
Yeah.
But I see you embodying, the great stuff that we had back in, the humanistic approach. I feel like that's lost uh, in the younger generation. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but I'll tell you, I mean, the people I trained alongside of, it is so agenda driven, and some people are more worthy of help than others. So here's my horrible fear. Has this been lost, or is it being lost, this thing that you are presenting to us, which I see as a fully flowered embodiment of the best of what I saw in psychotherapy? So is it being lost, and can people be taught to do this?
Oh, thank you, Paul. I want to take a deep breath there because that makes me feel sad. And I think there's truth to your question. It's something I imagine we all wonder. And I wonder too. I think my deepest truth in myself is that in the end, that longing to belong and that longing to love and be loved will win out. I do think it's a dark time and it looks lost, and I think despair is something we all have to, at least I feel often, and I have to allow myself to grieve. Um, but I really do believe what I'm saying is that I think Peter Coleman's work and the work Braver Angels is doing and the work we are all doing, I do feel, and this is why I'm kind of speaking about this and writing about it now, is when I watch my clients say, how did I not know this? I see the power of it. And I see that they can start to change. And it just that's, that what's the old Bucky Fuller quote? And there's a few others about how change happens. I forget the other one. Maybe somebody can pull it up. But change happens with a group of 5 people like us. And pretty soon there's a new narrative. And I mean, it's really weird because I'm not an optimist and I'm very upset with what's going on in the world and very nervous about it and terrified. But honestly, I see something like there's this light shining. And I think all the great people in the world, whether it was Martin King or Tyler Desjardins or the Bible or whatever things you like to turn to, even Jane Goodall, you know, we're going to turn it around again, and it's going to have to be us. It's going to be individuals.
Yeah. And when you say us, I mean, my first reaction was psychotherapist. I'm not so sure. But us individuals, uh, that I buy. And I mean, I actually find that lost spirit in Braver Angels far more now than I do in the field of psychotherapy.
Mhm.
Well, thank you for that question and comment because I agree with that's helpful. When I say us, the heroes are us. What I mean is those of us who are conscious now and we know what we know about how divides need to end and unification needs to occur. It's we, the people. That's what has to happen. We, the people. It's going to be those of us that know this is possible and talking to one relative or talking to one neighbor or risking one difficult conversation or helping one client or talking to Braver Angels and saying, can we be a little more vulnerable and can we, just little bit by bit? Oh, that was Jane Goodall's last quote is, I don't have it handy, but she says we're going to have to change things bit by bit.